Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Andrew. This webinar is about Knowledge Bridge, knowledge sharing made easy to maximize customer support efficiencies. So first, before we get started, safe harbor, just kind of the standard boilerplate commentary to make you aware that this is informational purposes only. So take a moment to read that. Okay, and the agenda that we have is first off, I'm going to talk about zAgile Inc., the company, its background, its customers, and so forth. A little bit about the products, where we're serving the customer support teams, your support team's goals, obstacles to those goals, and then how Knowledge Bridge helps to overcome those obstacles in a discussion about the overview of Knowledge Bridge. Then I'm going to hand it over to Sanjeev, who will handle the demo, and then he'll hand it back to me for a conclusion. Okay, so first up about zAgile Inc. We've been around since 2006 in the integration software space. And where we're unique is we're plug and play integration, specifically for Salesforce and between some leading applications and tools. And our mission is helping teams drive cross-functional collaboration by integrating tools, processes, and knowledge. So we have hundreds of customers, and there you can see some of the better known enterprises listed there. That's just a taste of the companies that zAgile serves. But you can see it's across the board in the major enterprises. We also serve many mid-sized companies as well. And you'll notice there's software companies here, there's media, there's finance, there's retail, there's healthcare, communications, so forth and so on. So a really wide range of customers served, all who are really using software and they have customer support challenges to overcome. So we have a suite of products to serve the customer support teams. You could say our flagship product is zAgile Connect on the left, integrating Salesforce with Jira so that customer support teams can work more efficiently with Jira issues from within Salesforce Service Cloud, as well as communicate with the engineering team using Atlassian Jira. And everyone can do that without leaving their own application. I invite you to check out the recorded webinar on our website to see information about that. And there you see in the middle, the Knowledge Bridge product about publishing Confluence pages to Salesforce Knowledge Articles. The beautiful thing here is, of course, you can use Confluence to curate your knowledge articles in the wiki and then use that within the product team, for example, product and engineering, to cultivate the knowledge, make it beautiful, and then push it out to the customer, to the field teams, and to even the customers and community if that's desired. We're also going to have a webinar December 12th for ChatBridge, and that's about integrating Salesforce with Slack. So you can actually query information in Salesforce directly from Slack, have conversations about particular cases done within Slack, and all that history is preserved for you and attached to the case as well. So again, register for that webinar. Also very good, deep, rich information about ChatBridge. Okay, so let's take a step back and understand what's the driving goals of the customer support team. Well, these are it in essence. It's to close the loop with customers on submitted tickets in a timely manner. So they have that collaboration, of course, going with the engineering team, and you don't want to resort to emails and isolated communication efforts of understanding what the status is of a ticket and the associated issues of the cases. You want to understand and be in complete alignment with respect to how things are escalated and what the status is. And why is that? Of course, it's to meet the SLA compliance, to achieve that compliance, and also to have ultimately customer satisfaction, which drives renewals and increased business. So what are the obstacles to the goals? Well, in this particular context, we're talking about knowledge transfer. So the support teams are spending too much time training internal staff, ramping up customers, partners on really the how-tos and the best practices. How do you achieve this? How do you use the product in this manner? How does this feature work? And so there's a lot of efforts that are required for the knowledge creation. That's gathering the information from all the firsthand experts. That could be engineering, of course, as well as product management, who writes the requirements, professional services, who has kind of developed the best practice around using those features in the best way possible, as well as the customer support team themselves. You want to have all that knowledge in a consistent manner. And now, how do you push that out? Where do you push it out? What's the good mechanism to publish that knowledge out to a broader audience? There's not really an easy, quick way to use existing tools in a very consumable way. And then finally, there's no visibility as to who is consuming what knowledge and is it effective or not. And so that's where Knowledge Bridge comes in. So this is the overview. What is it? It's usually really just using Confluence as your Salesforce knowledge editor. So it's a super easy plug and play application, purpose built to publish the Confluence pages as Salesforce Knowledge Articles. Who is it for? Well, particularly for customer support, but admittedly, really everyone in the internal teams is going to benefit from that, whether it's the product teams, the field teams, professional services, even sales, even marketing. You could even, if you choose, make it more widely available to external audiences, the customers themselves, partners, communities, and so forth. So how does Knowledge Bridge help? Well, again, it's about curation first and foremost. So you're using the most popular wiki out there that product teams are using, all its nice, rich text editing to make it nice and beautiful. And then you really literally share it easily with just a push of a button to Salesforce users. And so that ultimately means that teams are going to work more efficiently. You'll use the same tools that you're existing today. You don't have to go outside of what you're doing. And you're ultimately going to be able to enable even self-service, as I was mentioning, for customers, partners, and internal staff as well. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Sanjeev, who's going to take care of you with the demo. And then he's going to pass it back to me after he's done. Sanjeev?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Andrew. And greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the webinar. Before I start, I want to also mention for those who joined late that the webinar is being recorded, and we'll be sharing the recordings after the webinar is done with the attendees, as well as those who are not able to join. So let me just share screen. So Andrew, can you confirm?
Looks great.
Okay. So first, and you can see this also, right?
Yep, all looks good.
Great, thank you. So first of all, some attribution before I start the demo. For the purpose of demonstrating publishing Confluence pages to Salesforce Knowledge Articles, we've taken some content from Google JAX project. It's an open source project, and we were looking for some interesting documentation and formatting that included images and other sort of diverse formats that we could use as a way of showing how rich content could be published from Confluence to Salesforce. And so the copyright here is owned by the respective authors that are part of the Google JAX project. Now, let's go back to Confluence, where we will start. So here you can see what we've done is to take some of these pages and added them to Confluence to get started. And you'll see some links here from each project, for example, from each page, that is, that the links that the pages that have rich content, for example, embedded videos, links, and so on. So we'll start here, and then I want to first go directly to the Experience Cloud, because that's essentially the endpoint. I mean, in this scenario, you're publishing content directly to Salesforce Knowledge Articles and then making that available to your internal and external communities. So here we have set up an Experience Cloud here, and you can see the some of the pages that we've already published associated with this project. And so here, the same kind of look and feel. You've got the getting started, and you can navigate to the next page here, which you've already seen before. And then also, for example, I'll show you pages that we haven't yet published, so you can see how everything starts from Confluence. So, but one of the other things, I mean, once you've published a page, it benefits or it contributes to customer self-service as well as case deflection. So here you'll start to see some examples of it. For instance, as a customer or as a partner, I want to, do some research on or I have a question related to functional error check, and you'll see immediately some articles that show up that have, that are representing similar topics, for example. So here's one that shows up because we published this already. Or, for example, if I want to, if I have some question about, TensorFlow, for instance, and now you can see some article that has been published related to TensorFlow dataset loading and so on. So this is how it's contributing to case deflection. And of course, you'll see the same, and you would expect the same behavior within the context of case for the support agent. So here, for example, we're looking at a case that's assigned to me that is, the subject is functional error checks in JAX, and the suggested article is right there that is related to this particular topic, right? So this is, one of the core benefits of creating, rich content in Confluence, because it allows you to do that in a very easy way, and you can have a lot of internal product and documentation teams that are able to participate in contributing towards this content, and then publishing it easily in Salesforce to knowledge articles and making that available depending upon, to the channels that you want to publish it to external communities, whether it's your partners or customers. So now let's start here with Confluence. We're back. And so first thing is, how do we start? So, first what you would do is within Confluence, you'll select some spaces from which you want to publish this content. So spaces where you will be developing content, product content, for example, for the purpose of sharing with, your Salesforce and external audience. So here, you go to space settings for each space that you want to enable, and you will enable that space for Knowledge Bridge. So it's a matter of checking the box to enable so that the options for publishing to Salesforce become available. And then there are some additional configurations there. For example, you can check this, whether you want to publish, page labels as promoted search terms in Salesforce articles. I'll show you that as well. Whether you want to publish articles as draft only. So, there is an approval workflow, for example, that you can implement in Salesforce, where articles can be published only as draft and then approved for publishing to the Experience Cloud. Here we have disabled that because you can see how there's an option for either publishing as draft or publishing directly to the community portals, as well as the default channels, that you want to publish to. And finally, the more important thing here is the roles. So you can actually specify Confluence roles, or you can define roles who will be able to publish, because you could, within this space, have contributors as well as publishers. So, contributors could be all the, basically tech writers who are contributing content, but then someone else can go through, or a number of people with the publishing role can go through, make sure the content's ready to publish, and they're the only ones who will have the option of publishing. Okay. So going back to the space here, let's see how then it's done. So first I want to, let's go to a page, for example. As you've seen already, this page has been published within Salesforce. And I showed you that, see right here. So this is a page that we're referencing, and you can see the look and feel is pretty much how it is defined within Confluence itself. And also, I do want to point out that with Knowledge Bridge, I mean, you can either determine the look and feel of the page that you're publishing to Salesforce Knowledge Articles within Confluence, but you can also apply style sheets in Salesforce. So you can do some additional markups in Salesforce before publishing it to your to Experience Cloud. If you want to add some company related markups and look and feel or styles to your content. So, but let's start here with this page. Since it's already been published, I'll show you a few things here. For example, article info. So given that it's published already, you can access some metadata associated with this page. So here, for example, related to this article information, the first thing is we'll get a warning that says the last page version has not been published, because we're tracking any updates made to the page that have not been published to Salesforce. And of course, if you're in the process of making some edits, then until you are ready, you may not publish it. But this versioning allows you to track whether the page is in the progress of being edited and it hasn't yet been published, or the latest version has not been published. Some of the other things, for example, record type, what channels it was published, what the article number is, the URL within Salesforce, and so on. There's additional details like who published it, what was the last version that was published, when it was published. So you can track a lot of this here within Confluence for each page that you publish. And then, of course, you can also then view this article in Salesforce. So as you're working with various articles or various pages within Confluence, you can continue to view them in Salesforce to make sure that the look and feel is exactly how you want it before you decide to actually publish it, to the appropriate channels. So that's one aspect of it in terms of the metadata. Now, the other thing I also want to show is once the space is enabled, then you'll see these options. So you can delete, for example, the article from Salesforce. So if you want to start over again, perhaps it's not what you want to publish, or perhaps the page is outdated, you can delete it. So this will keep the page within Confluence itself, but it will delete it from Salesforce. You can see the published history. So here, for example, when it was published, what changes have been made, what versions were published, all of that is available in published history. And then you can also, of course, update the page in Salesforce. So since this page is already in progress of being edited, as you saw earlier, once I've finished my edits, I can update this page, and I can also update separately the Salesforce metadata, which is basically if I don't want to make any changes to the page, but I just want to update the categories and channels to which it's published, then I can update them from within Confluence itself. So what I've shown you so far is that you have full control within Confluence of being able to publish a page, track its history, get some information about when it was published, who published it, what version was published, update it, as well as publish directly to the channel, to the different channels, and so on. Now let's start with a page. So here, for example, I'm going back to the Experience Cloud. I'm going to start here because I want to show you in user guides. There's pages that we have published, for example. Actually, this one hasn't been published yet. And this one also, device memory profiling, hasn't been published yet. So I'm going to take one of these pages from Confluence and publish it to walk you through the whole process. And this one here, yes, we have published this. Okay. So let's go to Confluence and show you how this will work. So let's take one page, device memory profiling. Now this page here, I'll point out a few things before I publish. So first of all, looking at the menu options, you see that there's publish history and there's publish option, but there's no option to update because the page has not been yet published, or it was published and we've deleted it from Salesforce, right? So it's going to get published, from scratch. So here in the history, you may see some behavior, and you'll see, for example, most recently we unpublished it because for the sake of the demo, we want to do it again. Now, on the page itself, what we've done is we've added some additional macros, for example. So here's, for instance, we want to show you, you've got breadcrumbs, so the page represents breadcrumbs. It represents different sort of Confluence formatting macros. There's an embedded attachment here, for instance. And then also, some images, so that you can see how this publishing to Salesforce will handle all of these different attributes of the page. And finally, the page has certain labels. So we are going to publish these labels as promoted search terms in Salesforce when we publish it to the article. So these are all so it's basically representing rich content, and it is really why we wanted to use some of this content from the Google project, because it gives us a very good example of how you can create very rich content within Confluence itself, and you can do that fairly easily. And then just with one or two clicks, publish it to Salesforce. So let's now publish this page. So now the publishing is fairly simple. We're going to take this page and we will go in, associate it with a particular category. For example, I'll just say that I want to publish it under user guides. And I can select a number of different categories, for example. And these categories are retrieved from Salesforce. And next, I will have the option of, publishing as selecting a record type, selecting channels to which I want to publish, or channels to which the page should belong, and then publish as draft or not. So if I uncheck this, then this will get published directly to the Salesforce Experience Cloud. So I'm going to leave it publish as draft, and then publish. Now, what I haven't shown you here is that if there were any links within that page, within this page that represented other pages that haven't been published, then in this particular step, we would identify those pages to let you know that it's referencing pages that have not been published to Salesforce yet. So you can either go back and publish those, or you can publish this first and then go back and fix those links. So those are options available to you. But for now, we will just go ahead and publish this page. And as you can see, it's processing all of the different macros within the page itself, as well as attachments that are associated with it. Now that you've published it, you can view it in Salesforce because you want to see how, and then once you viewed it, you can then make a decision to actually publish it, make it online. So that's also possible here before you leave this, but let's take a look at how it's published in Salesforce. So here you can see, for example, this is the look and feel. Here's the, breadcrumbs, for example, the installation. This is download available. So here's the downloadable file. You got code and macros, for example, you've got images embedded in it. So all of the look and feel, as you can see, is retained within the page itself. And then finally, you can look at some of the metadata associated with, so here's the promoted search terms, for example. So this is Confluence page labels that have been submitted here and captured as promoted search terms. And of course, some additional metadata, like what category the page represents. This is what we had published from Confluence. Now, the other thing we also wanted to show as part of this demo is the approval process, because, well, Salesforce provides that, and of course, it's also possible to implement that in Confluence itself. There are third-party add-ons that are available for approval workflows in Confluence, and of course, in approval workflows also possible in Salesforce. So here, for example, we have a simple demo of submitting the page for approval. Let's just say, so now we have submitted this page for approval. We can go to approval and then say, yeah, okay, it's ready to go, and let's approve this for publishing. So this will cause the page to be published in the portal itself. And now if you go back to user guides and you go to device memory profile, you should be able to see this page. And again, the look and feel of this page is still retained here. So here's your breadcrumbs. You've got the rest of the documentation that looks the same. You also have the download available here. So the link, the code macro is represented properly, as well as the embedded images and so on. So this is essentially how, as simple as it is in terms of, creating fairly rich content within Confluence itself, and then publishing to Salesforce. Now, within Salesforce, before I leave, I want to also point out a couple of other things. So let's go and look at knowledge here. So here you'll see, for example, articles. And within the article itself, there's going to be some additional metadata. So this is what I had shown you earlier within Confluence pages. So we also maintain page metadata for each page that's published from Confluence in Salesforce itself. So this is something that you can reference in Salesforce. So here, what is the status, for example, when it was last published, who published it, as well as the Confluence URL, for instance, for reference, and the version that was published. So here, this is the last Confluence page version that was published. So you have access to a lot of information about the page, not just the content itself, but also, what actually, when some history about the page as it was published, and who published it, and so on. So these are, and also, of course, you have, you can see all the draft articles, and, these are the articles that were submitted from Confluence, but these are still in draft mode. So if you can review each one and go through the approval process if you have implemented it, for example, as well as you can look at all the published articles and see what the, what the look and feel is, and when they were published, what version they are, and so on. So this is our knowledge bridge documentation, for example, that we've also published to Salesforce from Confluence. So I think I've covered pretty much all of the core capabilities from Confluence. The other thing also actually I wanted to point out is that Knowledge Bridge supports publishing from multiple Confluence.
You can go to the Knowledge Bridge app, Sanjeev, on the left.
Here?
No, in the docs, change to, you're in service. We need to change to Knowledge Bridge app.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right. Thanks. So yeah, so I wanted to also show this, the fact that, for Confluence Cloud, in the settings here, you'll see multiple connections that you can create. So it is possible to publish articles from multiple Confluence instances, and that's also a plausible scenario in enterprises where you have a number of different teams that are all using their own Confluence instances. and they can create content and then publish to different communities within Salesforce from their own Confluence. So for each Confluence, then you can establish a connection, and then you can start publishing. And then finally, from Confluence itself, a single integration user account is needed to publish Confluence pages to Salesforce Knowledge. So not everyone in Confluence needs to have access to Salesforce or needs to have a license in Salesforce. So this allows your product and internal tech teams to freely create whatever content they want and then publish it as needed to Salesforce, and then the Salesforce teams can decide, how to distribute that content, whether it's good for internal purpose or whether it can be published or it should be published for, to the external audiences. So I think with that, I will turn it over back to Andrew for the wrap up.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sanjeev. And hopefully you can see my slides now.
Yep.
Great. So as you can see, that's very, very, very polished, very, very easy. And it's quick and easy to get set up. So it takes less than an hour. You get all that full featured capability without, hacking around and doing all sorts of custom development. So that last point that Sanjeev raised is a great one, that you just need that single user within Confluence. So that begs the question, how is licensing done? Well, licensing is priced on a per articles published basis. Starts at $4,900 for 500 pages, which is already quite a bit. And then we have some tiered options for you that increase. I'd like to point out, though, we have a 50% discount offer on the first year for existing zAgile customers for a purchase through December 31st. So hopefully you all can take advantage of that. We would love to make you successful on using Knowledge Bridge. Okay, so in summary, again, this is a purpose-built Salesforce-oriented product specifically for knowledge curation and publishing. So we had a specific audience in mind of customer support in particular and internal teams, as well as specifically designed for that purpose. So super easy plug and play integration, feature rich, very easy to install, take less than an hour to be up and running. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us at sales@zagile.com. We'd be delighted to arrange a discussion, a demo, and we can go from there. So thanks so much for your time. This concludes the demo and the webinar.